almost to our last point on the agenda. Now this is a report on the observation of the elections of the Republic of Moldova. It's document CPL 2024-4604. These elections were observed by a Congress delegation led by Vladimir Prebilic from Slovenia. The report and draft recommendation were adopted by the Monitoring Committee on the 14th of February 2024. Mr. Vladimir Prebilic, you have the floor for 10 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah. Ready. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dear colleagues, in my capacity as Rapporteur, I am pleased to present the findings of the Congress mission to observe the local elections held on 5th November 2023 in the Republic of Moldova. The report was adopted in the Monitoring Committee meeting on 14th of February. Overall, the Congress delegation comprised 13 Congress members and observed the procedures in about 115 polling stations across the country. The Congress was part of the International Observation Mission alongside with OSCE, ODIHR, and the European Parliament. I presented the Congress preliminary findings at a joint press conference and had thus the opportunity to emphasize on positive developments and matters of concerns specific to the Congress. I should like to stress the very fruitful cooperation we enjoyed between the Congress and other international observers in the field. I also presented our conclusions at the Lessons Learned conference organized by the Central Election Commission 2 weeks ago. All in all, this was the 13th Congress election observation mission to the Republic of Moldova, and I can say that we were highly satisfied to see that many of the Congress' long-standing recommendations were addressed in the new electoral code adopted in 2022 following extensive consultations. These changes included the participation and application of the 40% gender quota on the list of local level, the removal of unnecessary high requirements for independent candidates, the ban on artificial voter migration, and additional regulations and oversight on campaign and party finance. Regardless of challenges linked to the composition of the CEC and the application of some burdensome provisions of the new code, we observed that Central Election Commission operated in a transparent and efficient manner at the head of well-trained election administration. We saw an overall calm, orderly and transparent election day from opening to counting, with some minor procedural issues. Voter identification cameras worked well and seemed to be perceived positively by voters and observers alike. Observers from the NGOs and parties were deployed in large numbers and contributed to the transparency of the process. In addition, these elections presented extraordinary circumstances due to the geopolitical situation of the country and the increased polarization of Moldovan society. I'm sure that you all heard reports on attempts of the Russian Federation to interfere in Moldovan politics and destabilize the democratic institutions. Indeed, in the context of the 2023 elections, we heard numerous and credible reports by authorities, journalists, elected representatives, and NGOs of corruption of voters and candidates, disinformation campaigns, and schemes of illegally found campaigns and parties. We assessed the situation as very worrying and highly detrimental to local democracy, as these groups, almost always related to the banned Shore Party, operated with a view to distort the will of the voters. These elections were marked by constitutional disputes, contradictory decisions, and jurisprudence and persisting legal uncertainty related to the right to be elected of such parties. In the opinion of the delegation, this negatively impacted the overall electoral procedure before, during, and after campaign. I will not go into details of the Constitutional Court decisions on June and October 2023, which are detailed in the report, but the delegation was concerned by the risk of arbitrariness, the absence of individualized decisions, and of legal remedies related to changes brought to the right to be elected. The Venice Commission expressed the same preoccupations, including on the amendments adopted in a rushed manner and without consultations. On October 4th, to address some of the Constitutional Court arguments. The government also resorted to the wide-ranging powers of the Commission for Exceptional Situations, instituted by the state of emergency in place since 2022, to ban 6 TV channels and to deregister the Chance Party and its more than 8,000 candidates 2 days before election day. This deregistration was appealed and was followed by a long legal dispute. The delegation would like to highlight the substantial efforts of the election administration and law enforcement bodies to proactively investigate corruption allegations, and deplored that situation considerably strained the institutions and eroded in a trust of voters in democratic process. We therefore recommended that more should be done to build the capacities of the authorities to tackle electoral corruption and increase voter awareness of the prohibited activities. At the same time, while we recognize the threats faced by the Republic of Moldova, we believe that the stability of electoral framework is paramount to ensure trust in the impartiality of the process and equal campaigning conditions. We were all concerned by the fact that some decisions were not taken early enough, such as the registration of the Chance Party, or sometimes without necessary consultations, debate, or clear justification. This is why we recommend avoiding last-minute changes to the legal framework to allow substantial time for consultations and legal disputes to be solved, and also re-examining the large powers of the Commission for Exceptional Situations. In addition, we would like to see a simplification of the appeals and complaints procedures to ensure that all complaints related to the registration of candidates are handled early enough ahead of the election day. Let me now turn to other aspects of the elections which were overall quite positive and which we would like to encourage the authorities to pursue efforts. We strongly welcomed the increased oversight of the CEC over campaign and party finance, which was followed by warnings and sanctions, and we would like to suggest that to resource the CEC adequately to fully monitor both campaign finance abuses and the misuse of administrative resources, as cases to misuse were also reported and perceived to unduly benefit some candidates. We also appreciated that campaign was positive, focused on local issues, and that public and independent media were committed to present candidates in most impartial manner, including during televised debates. The same cannot be said for private media and online media. They were too often subject to mis- or disinformation or aligned with political or business interests. We thus encourage the authorities to further tackle media concentration and disinformation. We were particularly pleased to see the application of 40% gender quota, which contributed to a small but significant increase of women representation. At the same time, we also witnessed that women and young candidates were less likely to be elected mayors or to be placed on winnable seats. And we would like to see the authorities provide more incentives to support their participation. We also believe that some provisions of the code were burdensome to implement and could be reviewed, such as weekly financial reports, the threshold requirements for the 2 rounds of elections, and the monitoring by CEC of the information published by public authorities. In addition, we recommend scrapping the age and educational requirements for becoming a mayor, which are not applied at national level. On this matter, we were concentrated to hear and concerned to hear about the case of Mr. Umanet, who was elected mayor in Buabici, but who, following contradictory decisions, after the election day was declared retroactively ineligible due to issues with his proof of secondary education, which was part of the eligibility criteria. In addition to this requirement being unnecessarily burdensome, it seems to us that the handling of this case of Mr. Umanet did not provide enough forcibility and consistency, and that express decisions on a candidate's ineligibility should be taken prior to the election day. Last but not least, as noted in the past, we observed too many polling stations that were not accessible for voters with mobility impairments, and call on the authorities to do more to ensure accessibility for all. I will be more than happy to take your questions and comments, and finally, I will thank you for the attention and strongly encourage you to adopt the draft recommendations. Thank you.